The definition of irony. History is bunk, said Henry Ford. Mr. Toastmaster, Mr. President, fellow Toastmasters, and very welcome future Toastmasters. We're going to go on a journey, and this starts in Clonakilty in 1846, through the eyes of a man named William Ford. And like many men of the time, he either had to or wanted to go to America. The Promised Land was the land of opportunity. And what happened when opportunity knocked? His son Henry changed the world. Henry Ford was born in 1863. He grew up on a farm in Michigan, and growing up at 15, he was given a watch by his father, and he quickly started taking it apart and reassembling it, always showing an interest in how things worked and assembling things. He garnered a reputation as a watch repairman, so much so that locals would get him to fix his watches. Then, when he was in his early 20s, his mother passed away, and much to his father's surprise, he left the farm. He said, "I always detested the farm, it was my mother that I loved," and he was gone. He went off and got married. And when he got married to Clara Ann Bryant, they had one son, Edsel, who sadly, and it's a bit of a pity, Henry outlived Edsel by 4 years. In 1891, this is where things really started to change. Henry worked in the Edison Illuminating Company under the inventor of the light bulb, Thomas Edison. And it was here that Henry built a car. First car, not the first car in the world, but the first car that he built. And he had one oversight when the car was completed. No garages had doors big enough for cars. So what did he do? Get a hammer and smash that down. Car worked. Shortly after, he left and worked in a variety of setup companies. One of them, most famously, is Cadillac, which you might know is now part of General Motors and will become one of his big competitors as we go a little bit later on. So in 1903, 100 years ago, he incorporated the Ford Motor Company. So anyone driving a Focus or a Mondeo or whatever, this is where it started. And he set up this company with one very clear vision at the time, that everyone could afford a car. On the 1st of October 1908, that vision was realised with the Ford Model T. And this was insane how much this car sold. It was retailing at just $825, which is about $21,000 in today's terms. Year-on-year sales went up by over 100%. I mean, you couldn't make a product like that these days if you tried. It was unbelievable. The car kept going year on year. By 1916, the retail price of the car was down to $325. So, nearly in half on it. It was fantastic stuff. So much so that by 1918, half of all cars in America were black Ford Model Ts, which leads to his famous but disputed quote, which was, "Any customer can have any car they want in any colour so long as it's black." It's in his own autobiography, so I believe it. But it was by the mid-1920s that things started to change, and Henry noticed General Motors was getting a bit of foothold against him, and he didn't really like that, as what business person would. And he decided to build the Ford Model A, this was the third time through the alphabet now. And that ran for 4 years and sold 4 million cars. And at this period of the company really evolved into what we know today. And that's when it became a company with a range of cars. And different sizes, different classes, planned obsolescence, which is still used in the motor trade to this day. Henry didn't invent that, General Motors were ahead of him on that one. He also sought about taking industrial vehicles. Ford are still the biggest truck company in the world. So it's really fascinating stuff at this point. Now, I'm not going to go too much further on the company at this point because I think you get an idea of the size of the company and where it is and the fact that Ford are still going strong to this day. Focus is currently, I believe, the most common car on the Irish road. But we need to understand who Henry was that made the company as big as it was. Well, firstly, to give you an idea, he was a workaholic. In terms of kind of management and the type of person that he was, he believed that the key to efficiency, and rightly so, was hiring and keeping the best workers. So, in 1914, to shock the world, he introduced the $5 workday, approximately $110 today. This meant everybody who was working for him, their salary just doubled. Proved to be the most profitable decision he could have made because everybody was flocking to Detroit because why wouldn't you want to do the same job for somebody else who's going to pay you twice the money? So this spawned forward on and kept them going. Then when he moved on, he let his son take the reins of the company, but he was always there in the back, controlling it. And this was best demonstrated when his son Edsel built a car, also named the Edsel. And Henry saw it, and history repeats itself. He took the hammer. He didn't like that. I don't know if this was his arrogance, but he smashed that car to pieces and it never went to production. I do know this though, it is what inspired Billy Joel's song lyrics in We Didn't Start the Fire to say Edsel is a no-go. That's where that comes from. What I find even more interesting though is that he was anti-Semitic. He hated the Jewish people. I don't really know why, and why I say I find this interesting is that both himself and General Motors gave money to Hitler to build a Volkswagen. And that's where that came from. Funnier yet again is that he did business with Jewish companies, I suppose proving that all prejudices makes no sense, because he says he hates them in one letter, published letters about disliking Jewish people, but then goes and does business with them on the other hand. It's outrageous. So we're kind of coming to the end of the journey, because at that point, Edsel had taken over the company, then Edsel passed away. Henry was technically in charge of it, but he really wasn't. There was a board of directors, the company was now a public company, and he was failing, he was getting old. He died in 1947 at the age of 83. But as we conclude, I think what you must remember is that at the time of his death, Forbes equated his wealth in today's terms in 2008. He was worth $188.1 billion. Now, nobody in this day and age is worth anywhere near that kind of money. So that shows you how genius this man was. He was an enigmatic genius, if a little irrational, and he said, history is bunk. It's tradition. We don't need tradition. The only history worth the tinker's damn is the history we built today, and that is the definition of irony. Thank you very much.